Have you ever noticed that the more you chase happiness, the more it seems to slip away? It's like trying to catch your own shadow. The faster you run, the faster it slips away. Ramana Maharshi discovered something that will turn your head upside down. The very act of seeking is what keeps us from what we seek. In this video, you will understand why stopping searching is not giving up. It is awakening. Think about the last time you said, "When I get this, then I'll be happy." It might have been a job, a relationship, a material achievement, or even inner peace. You went after it, you worked hard. Maybe you even achieved it. But how long did that feeling of fulfillment last? Days? Weeks? And then came that familiar feeling. There must be something more. Something I haven't found yet. Ramana Maharshi, the sage of Arunachala, spent his life observing this cruel dynamic of human nature. He saw people come to him carrying suitcases full of techniques, methods, spiritual quests, all seeking outside what they never lost within. If this resonates with you, what follows will show you why your search may be exactly what keeps you stuck. The search creates a character, the seeker, and this character needs a problem to exist. Think about it. If you were already complete, if you already had everything within you, who would be this person who wakes up every day searching for something? The ego, that mental construct you think is you, feeds on dissatisfaction. It whispers, "You're not there yet. You're not enough yet. You need one more technique, one more guru, one more book, one more transformative experience." Ramana realized that the search itself presupposes that something is missing. When you seek peace, you automatically assume you don't have it. When you chase happiness, you confirm to yourself that you're unhappy. It's like trying to find your glasses while they're still on your face. Who are you looking for? That was the devastating question Ramana asked. Because if you could see who this I you seek really is, you would discover that it is a mirage, a ghost you feed with your own belief in your incompleteness. The trap is subtle. You're not looking to be happy. You're looking to confirm that you're not. Here's the truth that will hurt before it sets you free. You are not seeking peace. You are running away from yourself. Every technique, every guru, every method is a sophisticated way to avoid looking within and discovering that there was never anything wrong with you. The peace you seek isn't at the end of your spiritual journey, it's here now, beneath all this desperate rushing. Ramana said, "You seek to cease seeking." But what happens when you truly stop? Not out of laziness or giving up, but out of recognition. What's left when you're no longer chasing anything? That leaves you, the real you. Not the anxious seeker, but the calm awareness that has always observed all this rush. Peace isn't a prize you win after a long search. It's what remains when you realize the search was the only obstacle. Like trying to sleep with great effort, the harder you try, the more awake you become. Sleep comes when you stop trying to sleep. Stop looking and see what's already here. Ramana wasn't asking you to give up on life or become passive. He was revealing that you already are what you seek. The thirst for completeness that drives you isn't a sign that something is missing. It's a call home, to the consciousness you've never ceased to be. Take a deep breath. Have you ever felt this way too? Those rare moments when you stop running and, in the silence, something reveals itself. Something that's always been there, patiently waiting for you to tire of searching. If you've made it this far, maybe you're ready to find out who's really doing all this searching, and who you are when you stop. In the next chapter, we'll delve into the subtlest trap, how the ego masquerades as a spiritual seeker to continue existing. The ego is smarter than you think. When you decide to stop being materialistic and move towards spirituality, it doesn't die. He wears a robe and becomes his own guru. Ramana Maharshi saw this 1,000 times. People who traded their thirst for money for enlightenment, their addiction to success for spiritual techniques. The character changed clothes but remained a character. Are you ready to see how your own ego may be using your spiritual quest to empower itself? Maybe you've experienced this before. You started meditating, reading self-discovery books, attending lectures, and little by little you created a new identity. I'm a meditator. I'm spiritual. I understand things others don't. At first, it feels like evolution. You feel superior to those still trapped in the material world. You judge those who don't awaken, criticize those who don't vibrate high. You accumulate spiritual knowledge as you once accumulated material achievements. Ramana watched this with silent compassion. He knew the ego had found the perfect disguise: hide behind the pursuit of one's own destruction. If this resonates with you, brace yourself. What's coming next may shatter some of the beautiful illusions you've built about yourself. The seeking ego is the most dangerous of all because it feeds on its own spiritual dissatisfaction. It says, "You're not there yet. You need one more retreat, one more technique, one more teacher." And you believe it because it feels so spiritual. But consider carefully. Who wants to be enlightened? Who is in a hurry to awaken? Who collects mystical experiences as trophies? It's the same old ego, only now wearing white and talking about consciousness. Ramana had a brutal way of disarming this. When someone came to him brimming with techniques and knowledge, he would simply ask, "Who wants to become enlightened?" And he would stare silently until the person realized the trap. The ego needs time to exist, the past to regret, the future to project. Enlightenment is always almost here, in the next technique, the next insight, the next guru, because if she arrived now, who would you be? Have you realized how many spiritual identities you've created? I'm an awakened person. I understand Jung. I practice mindfulness. Each label is a new prison painted with more beautiful colors. Here is the truth that will shatter your most cherished spiritual illusions. The ego does not want to destroy itself. It wants to perfect itself. The spiritual seeker is the most sophisticated version of the ego because it uses the very search for truth to perpetuate itself. It studies the end of suffering, but never allows suffering to truly end, because without suffering, there is no seeker. Ramana saw it clearly. People who spent decades searching for themselves, accumulating techniques, experiences, insights, but always keeping a safe distance from the simple truth. You are already what you are looking for. The seeking ego is addicted to the process, not the outcome. He loves the journey because on the journey he exists, he matters, he has a mission. But what happens when the journey ends? When there's nothing left to seek? Who's left? That's why the ego always finds new spiritual dissatisfaction, a new level to reach, a new wound to heal. It transforms freedom itself into yet another goal to be achieved. The cold hard truth: you can spend your entire life developing spiritually and still remain in exactly the same place, stuck in the identity of someone who is evolving. The ego does not die from techniques. It dies from lack of attention. When Ramana said, "Be as you are," it wasn't an invitation to mediocrity. It was an invitation to stop feeding the character that needs to become something better. The spiritual seeker is just the ego with a degree in self-knowledge. Think about it. How many times have you felt special for understanding spiritual things? How many times have you judged others for being less aware? How many spiritual identities have you worn like uniforms? True spirituality isn't about becoming someone special. It's about discovering that you were never the person you thought you were. Take a deep breath. Does it hurt to see this? It's normal. The seeking ego doesn't die easily because it has the most sophisticated weapons: false humility, spiritual knowledge, and the certainty of being on the right path. If you've seen this in yourself, congratulations. You've just taken the first real step toward freedom. In the next chapter, we'll explore what's left when you stop seeking without becoming an emotional zombie. There is a huge difference between giving up on life and stopping looking. One kills you inside, the other resurrects you. When Ramana Maharshi said, "Stop seeking," people were terrified. But then, will I become a vegetable? Will I lose my ambition? Will my life stagnate? This is the biggest confusion that keeps people stuck in the frantic rush. Are you ready to find out what really happens when you stop, without dying inside? Have you ever had those moments? They usually happen without warning. You're out in nature or waking up in the morning or simply stuck in traffic, and suddenly everything not the cars, not the world, but something inside you. For a few seconds, minutes perhaps, you're not wanting anything, not going anywhere, not running away from anything. And in that silence, something strange happens. you feel more alive than you have in months of rushing around. Ramana lived in this state permanently, not out of laziness or depression, but because he had discovered that stillness is not the opposite of life. It is its source. People came from all over the world just to sit near him, because in his presence they experienced something they had forgotten, what it was like to be alive without being desperate. If this resonates with you, perhaps you are beginning to understand that there is something beyond the constant rush. The fear of stopping pursuing is real because the ego whispers, if you stop pursuing, you'll become a failure. You'll stagnate. You'll miss opportunities. But this fear stems from a fundamental confusion. There is a difference between action that arises from despair and action arising from stillness. One is compulsive, anxious, always afraid of not being enough. The other is natural, fluid, without the neurotic need to prove anything. Ramana was not a passive man. He answered questions, guided people, and ran an ashram. But all of this happened through his no-becauses. He wasn't trying to become someone special or achieve something. He simply was, and from his presence came natural actions. The difference is in the motivation. When you act from inner silence, you're not trying to fill a void or prove your worth. You act because action is necessary, period. Like a tree that bears fruit. Not because it's trying to become a better tree, but because it's its nature. The ego is terrified of this because it exists only in the tension between what I am and what I should be. In silence, this tension disappears. Here's what really happens when you stop seeking. You don't lose your life. You stop wasting it. All that energy you spent chasing things you didn't need, proving things that didn't matter, running away from feelings that needed to be felt. That energy is released. And then you discover something shocking. You have more than enough energy to live. Stopping searching isn't about becoming apathetic. It's about stopping being compulsive. Ramana showed that you can act intensely without being internally desperate. You can have goals without being obsessed with results. You can want things without making your happiness dependent on achieving them. When you're no longer running from yourself through constant searching, a presence emerges, a natural attentiveness that doesn't require forcing itself to be present. You are simply here, now, without the neurotic need to be anywhere else. And from this presence springs actions far more effective than all your desperate rushing, because now you're not acting from fear or lack, you're acting from completeness. In silence, you don't lose life, you find it. The silence Ramana pointed to is not inaction. It is action without anxiety. It is not giving up. It is engagement without despair. It is not death. It is life without the compulsion to always be rushing somewhere. Think about it. Your best decisions, your moments of greatest clarity, your most effective actions. They didn't come from desperate rushing. They sprang from moments of stillness when you stopped pushing and allowed something wiser to work through you. The fear of stopping is the fear of discovering that you were always enough. Take a deep breath. Have you ever experienced this? Those rare moments when you weren't chasing anything and, paradoxically, everything started to flow? When you stopped forcing things and life started to happen naturally? If you can see that stopping searching isn't giving up on life, but starting to live it, you're ready for the question that will change everything. In the next chapter, we will delve into Ramana's simplest and most revolutionary question: who am I? Who am I? 3 simple words that Ramana Maharshi used to blow the minds of thousands of people. It's not a question for your brain to answer. It's a bomb to destroy the illusion of who you think you are. You'll discover why this seemingly innocent question is more dangerous to the ego than any meditation technique, and why the answer isn't where you think. Ready to have your identity completely questioned? When you think I am, what comes next? I am John. I am a mother. I am anxious. I am a spiritual person. Each answer is a costume you wear, a mask that defines who you think you are. But Ramana asked an even more basic question. Who is this me who wears all these clothes? A 17-year-old boy came to Ramana in despair. Master, I suffer so much. I am depressed. I am rejected. I am a failure. Ramana looked into his eyes and asked softly, who is it that suffers? Who is this I that feels rejected? The young man fell silent. For the first time in his life, he tried to find this self that had been suffering so much, and he couldn't locate it. If you've ever tried to honestly answer, "Who am I?" without using external labels, you know how disconcerting it is to find that you can't find a solid answer. The ego has ready-made answers to who I am, my social roles, my personality, my wounds, my achievements. But Ramana wouldn't accept any of these superficial answers. He continued, "No, who has these roles? Who feels these emotions? It's like peeling an onion. I'm a lawyer. But who chose to be a lawyer? I'm someone who was hurt in childhood. But who was hurt? I'm an anxious person. But who feels anxiety? With each layer you peel back, you realize there is something watching, something that is aware of all these labels but is none of them. You are the consciousness that observes John, not John himself. The brilliant trick of Ramana's question is that it turns your attention 180 degrees. Instead of looking outward for an identity, you look inward for the observer. And then something disturbing happens. You can't find it as an object because you are him. It's like trying to see your own eyes. You can see through them, but you can't see them directly. You can experience consciousness, but you can't define it. Here's the discovery that will turn your life upside down. The I that suffers is a mental construct. The real you has never suffered a single day. When you truly investigate who am I, you don't find a solid sufferer. You find thoughts of suffering passing through a consciousness that remains unchanged. You find emotions arising and disappearing in an awareness that is never touched by them. The I who has problems is like a character in a movie. It looks real on the screen, but when you look behind the screen, all you find is projected light. Ramana showed that all psychological suffering depends on identification with this illusory character. I am inadequate. I am rejected. I am traumatized. But who is this I? Where is it located? When was it born? When you look honestly, you discover something shocking. The sufferer is made of the same stuff as dreams, thoughts and sensations that appear and disappear in the consciousness that you really are. You can't stop suffering by improving the character. You stop suffering when you realize you were never the character. The physical pain may persist, but the psychological suffering, that mental drama about the pain, dissolves when there's no one left to suffer it. You're not the problem. You're not even the solution. You're the one who observes both. The question, who am I, has no conceptual answer because the real you is not a concept. It is the very capacity to be aware, to know, to experience. It is the space where all thoughts, emotions, and sensations arise and disappear. When this understanding stabilizes, something revolutionary happens. You stop taking your problems personally, not because he became insensitive, but because he realized that there is no solid person to take things personally. Think about it now. Who is reading these words? Who is understanding these concepts? Can you locate this who as an object? Or do you only find the very capacity to be aware? If you have glimpsed, even for a second, that you are awareness and not the content of awareness, you have just touched what Ramana called your true self. Take a deep breath. The question keeps working even when you stop thinking about it. In the final chapter, we'll discover what happens when you finally stop searching and acknowledge what was always there. The freedom you've been searching for your whole life isn't a place you're going to. It's a place you've never left. Ramana Maharshi spent decades receiving people from all over the world seeking enlightenment, and he would say the same thing to them all. You are already free. You've just forgotten. It wasn't cheap comfort. It was the most brutal, liberating truth anyone could ever hear. Are you ready to discover that there was never anything wrong with you? Imagine spending your entire life searching for your glasses while they're still on your face. Imagine running around the world searching for air to breathe while your lungs are full. This is what we do with our own essential nature. Ramana used to tell of people arriving at the foot of Mount Arunachala after exhausting journeys, carrying heavy, dust-covered backpacks, desperate for answers. He would look at them with compassion and say, "You can put down your backpack now. You have arrived." But many insisted, "No, Master, I still need to do more practices, purify more karma, evolve more." And he replied, "Who needs to evolve? Show me that person." Freedom isn't a future achievement, it's a present recognition. Like waking up from a nightmare, you don't have to gradually stop dreaming. In an instant, you simply wake up and realize, wow, it was just a dream. Your mind has been conditioned to believe that you are an unfinished project, that you need to heal, develop, and become better. But what if that very belief is the only problem? Ramana saw people spending decades trying to rid themselves of traumas, patterns, conditioning, as if they were actual viruses infecting their very essence. But he pointed to something revolutionary. You are not the conditioning. You are the consciousness where the conditioning appears. It's like confusing the clouds with the sky. Clouds pass, dark, light, stormy, calm, but the sky remains unchanged. Your thoughts and emotions are the clouds. You are the sky. The sky doesn't need to be free of clouds to be sky. It doesn't become less sky when there's a storm, nor more sky when it's clear. Likewise, you are no less you when you have bad thoughts, nor are you more you when you have spiritual insights. The search for purification is based on a lie, that you are contaminated. The search for healing is based on an illusion, that you are broken. The search for completeness is based on a fantasy, that something is missing. Ramana didn't cure people. He showed them they were never sick. Here is the final truth that will end all your searching. You are already complete. You are already free. You are already perfect. Not as a person, but as pure consciousness. Suffering doesn't happen because you have problems. Suffering happens because you believe you are someone who can have problems. When you see that it is the consciousness observing the problems, not the person having the problems, the suffering dissolves instantly, not because the problems disappear, but because there is no one else to suffer them personally. It's like waking up from a nightmare where you were being chased. The monster may still exist in the dream, but you are no longer dreaming of being the victim. Ramana showed that freedom is not an altered state of consciousness. It is consciousness without alteration. It's not a special feeling you achieve. It's the absence of the need to feel something special. The peace you seek is not the opposite of turmoil. It's what remains when you stop resisting turmoil. The happiness you seek isn't the opposite of sadness. It's what remains when you stop rejecting sadness. You already are what you seek. The only thing standing between you and that fulfillment is the belief that you are not. Stop trying to become what you already are. This isn't a pretty philosophy to think about. It's a reality to be acknowledged. Right now, as you read these words, you are the free consciousness you have always sought, not as an achievement, but as its most basic nature. What changes when you recognize this? Everything and nothing. Everything because you stop living like a beggar asking for what you already have. Nothing because you've always been this way, you just didn't know it. Ramana didn't offer techniques for liberation. He offered the recognition that you were never trapped. Take a deep breath and feel this now. Who is breathing? Who is feeling? Who is aware of these words? This alert presence that you are, not your thoughts about it, but it itself, is the freedom you have been seeking. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to fully understand it. Just rest in what you already are. The search is over not because you found something new, but because you realized you had never lost anything. If you've made it this far, welcome back home. You never left. You just forgot the address. The end of the search is not an achievement. It is a relief.